Hello, welcome to another episode of Time of Death. This is Ris.
And this is Dee.
And we are two nurses who like to talk true crime. We like to talk about cases that have a heavy medical influence to them, or cases that feature a medical professional as the perpetrator or the victim. So if you are new here, this is episode 40. Good place to start. It feels like our last episode was like months ago for some reason, doesn't it?
It does feel like a long time. Maybe because it's just been a freaking crazy week.
Maybe this has been too wild lately, but it just feels like it was like months and months ago, and here I am. Last week we were sitting in these same positions. Anyway, this week we're going to be talking about it was a highly publicized case at the time. And it just is a really nasty case. I just want to give a quick trigger warning. This case deals heavily with sexual abuse of a mentally disabled victim.
Oh gosh, that's so sad.
So the victim is anonymous. So I'm just going to be referring to her as Elle.
Okay.
Elle was originally from the San Carlos Apache Indian Reservation. She was born in 1989. By age 3, she had significant disabilities, and she was living at the Hacienda Healthcare Facility in Phoenix, Arizona. So the Hacienda Healthcare Facility was a long-term care facility. It was a non-profit organization, and it was funded by the state of Arizona. Mm-hmm. So Elle had a severe intellectual disability. She was rendered nonverbal after she had several seizures at a very young age. She was only 2 months old, and it had lasting effects on her. She had motor and cognitive impairments as a result. She had vision loss. She was bedridden. Although she cannot communicate like you and me can, she can respond to pain with some wincing. She makes noises. She will cry. She can respond to auditory stimuli. She can at least respond on some level to loved ones, physical touch, music. She's able to move her head, neck, and arms and legs a little bit, but she is totally reliant on the caregivers that are entrusted with her care. She cannot take care of herself at all, and she is not able to consent in any capacity to sexual activity.
Absolutely. She's like a baby.
Yeah, she's basically a baby, and she has no way of communicating any wants or needs to other people, and this is why this case is so horrific, because this was just such a, I don't want to say easy victim, but it was the ideal victim for someone nasty to take advantage of.
Because think about it. While she can't consent, she also can't report anything. You know, she's very limited in her communication. She can't say like, hey, this person did this, even if it was in a very limited way to tell someone. She's nonverbal.
Exactly. No, she cannot tell anyone what's going on. And we'll get way into that, because what happens for people to find out is horrible.
I can only imagine.
So Nathan Sutherland was a 36-year-old man. He began working at Elle's facility in 2012. By the time this case occurs in 2019, Elle was 29 years old.
This is very recent.
Yeah, it is very recent. Nathan was married. He had 4 kids with his wife. He was an LPN at Hacienda Healthcare Facility, and he was responsible for caring for the patients just like Elle. He was one of her caregivers, and he had been assigned to her care countless times over this 7-year span.
See, like, my skin has already begun to crawl, because yes, it's a horrible thing when anyone does it, but I think it's especially more so when it's someone like an LPN or an RN or like someone who is, it's especially horrific because he is a nurse, and with that title comes great responsibility. You take an oath to do no harm, non-malfeasance for your patients, and then on top of that, he's a father.
Yeah. That's something I've never understood, how you can have children and then take advantage of people who are powerless, who are like, it's like you said, she's like a baby at this point. She's like a child. I don't know. Something wrong with these people. There is something wrong with these people for having the ability to take advantage. Or like you hear cases about people who abuse children.
Yeah,
and they have children at home. And it's like, how can you do that? If you have babies of your own, how can you take advantage of kids like that? It's just too dark.
It is very dark, and it's also dark when people do it to their own children, like not to take away from that, but I think that a lot of them are narcissists, and they don't see their children as actual children.
Yeah.
They see them as extensions of themselves.
That's a good point, Dee.
Listen, I'm not a psych nurse for nothing. Yeah.
We have our specialist here.
Yeah. Psychoanalyze
our expert. So here you have, you know, an LPN in a position of power with an incapacitated, disabled woman who's unable to consent to sex. In 2018, Elle became pregnant.
Oh my God.
It's likely that Nathan raped her hundreds of times before he was caught. And Elle had no prenatal care. She was on heavy-duty meds like phenobarbital. Wow. Later that year, as the year was progressing, Nathan starts stressing. I don't know if he had like an inkling that she had gotten pregnant or what, but him and his wife were also going through divorce, and his coworkers noticed that he was more stressed out lately, but they believed it was due to his failing marriage.
Wow. No wonder his marriage was failing.
Yeah. Somehow no one noticed that Elle was pregnant.
I don't think, like, and I'm not trying to be funny, but I could understand why they wouldn't put that together. Like, it's such a foreign concept. Like, oh my God, someone is raping her and she's pregnant. Like, that would be like the last thought on my mind. Like, I'll be like, oh, you know what? Maybe she has a hernia. Maybe she has some kind of growth. Like, you know what I mean? I would be, you know, and especially if it was preterm.
Exactly. And you know what else? A lot of these patients with chronic disabilities who are bedridden, they oftentimes have a lot of obesity to the belly area. And, you know, they have contractures, and they're kind of like that truncal obesity is very apparent. So it's I'm not surprised that physically they weren't able to, but also she was menstruating. So, and at these facilities, I'm pretty sure they check, like at long-term facilities, they're pretty on top, or supposed to be pretty on top of tracking patients' periods.
Well, this is the thing. You can not have, like, some psych meds can cause you, like, your period to get wonky too. Like an elevated prolactin level, your body's going to think that you're pregnant.
Yeah.
Like, you'll have the engorged breasts. Like, it's very...
And you know what else, Dee, is like, when patients come into the ER and they have these chronic disabilities, the last thing on our minds is pregnancy. A lot of the time, it's like before imaging, typically women who are of childbearing age, you know, we have to get a pregnancy test before we get an X-ray or a CT scan. But for these patients, you know, they're not sexually active.
And I just want to circle back what you said. The bed-bound, basically vegetative patients, you would not think are sexually active. That's not saying that people who are disabled can't have healthy, fulfilling sex lives.
Exactly, yeah.
Not to take away from that. But, however, if someone, they know she can't consent.
Yeah. Yeah, people with these, you know, very significant cognitive disabilities, and they, you know, are unable to take care of themselves and unable to consent to sex. That's what I'm getting at. You know, pregnancy is the last thing in our mind because, you know,
it's unnatural.
Hopefully, you know, that's never the case.
I knew what you meant. I just wanted to clarify because of the audience.
You are good. No, as I was saying it, I thought, you know, maybe I should be more specific. So she, you know, had also increased leg swelling. She had increased weight gain, but also, like you're pointing out, sometimes medications can mask or can mimic pregnancy because people can gain quite a bit of weight when they're on these meds. But the staff had actually noticed abdominal distension and belly tenderness when they were touching her belly. So they were actually in the process of working her up for diverticulitis.
How long did this workup take?
I don't know, because that's something in the ER we diagnose with a CT scan.
Yeah.
We do, people come in, they come to the ER most of the time for a diverticulitis. For those of you who don't know, some people as they age especially can have diverticulosis, which is there's
the
like
inflammation of the pockets.
they're like little pockets in your GI tract. And then diverticulitis is when those little pockets get inflamed and cause a lot of belly pain. So they were working her up for this. Outpatient, I guess. I don't know.
That's like the craziest. Not the craziest part of the story, but it's crazy.
It is crazy, especially if this has been going on for a while. But one day, one of her caregivers notices that she's no longer distended and she's not tender to touch anymore. So this caregiver leaves, and then she comes back an hour later to change her brief. And she lifts up the sheet and she sees the baby's head poking out of her vagina. So she gave birth on December 29th, 2018. People, the staff are shocked that this is occurring. They're like, oh my God, how the heck did this happen? Family was shocked. Everyone was shocked except Nathan. Elle was okay, but the baby was delivered preterm. The baby boy was not breathing and he had to be resuscitated after birth, which also, here I am like, we in the ER for certain, we're like, oh God, baby, a sick baby, no.
Never mind.
Ellen D, where are you? But in a SNF, in a long-term facility, I don't know what the heck I would do. What do you do? I don't know what I would do.
Dude, that is like the last thing.
Could you imagine having to resuscitate a baby?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
They definitely didn't have any of the equipment.
Yeah. So, of course, the facility calls 911. And, of course, police start investigating immediately.
Good.
They ended up taking DNA samples from all the male nurses working there to compare the samples to the baby's DNA. Less than a month later, on January 22nd, 2019, it was discovered that the father was none other than Nathan.
Ris,
Yeah.
I just thought of something. Did they do a sexual assault kit on her?
No, they did not. Not to my knowledge. I don't think they did.
I would think they would have.
Well, for someone to, qualify for a sexual assault kit to be done, it has to be within 5 days of the assault. So it's possible if he had assaulted her within the 5 days.
Well, just so that everyone who's listening knows, we have an expert here. Ris is our resident safe nurse. So you want to tell them a little bit what that entails?
Yes. So I have my sexual assault forensic examiner certification. So basically, I did a training course a couple of years ago for it, and then every year I renew it. And it's actually been so beneficial because sometimes, especially in like a smaller community hospital, you don't see that many sexual assault cases come in. Thank goodness you don't see that many. I mean, we still get them, but it's not a incredibly high amount, like especially in cities might have. But to be able to understand how they're done, and they are so in depth.
Yeah.
These kits take about 3 to 5 hours on average. There's 12 physical steps in the kit. And then there is a written portion where you get the victim's story down verbatim.
Wow. I didn't know that entailed that. That's a big responsibility.
Yeah. I write it down verbatim. You get a medical history, a surgical history. You get like in-depth, like we ask, did the perpetrator's penis ever come in contact with your vagina? Did the patient's hand ever come in contact with your breast? Like, it's very, 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 very detailed. Have you had sex within the last 5 days? Have you showered? Have you eaten? It's just super in depth. Then you like examine their body, you examine their mouth. And then for the physical portion, we get like a DNA baseline blood test from the victim. We do oral swabs. We do touch DNA, like say someone was strangled or like someone's wrists were grabbed. You can actually swab their skin for touch DNA. You just swab very, very lightly on the skin with like a Q-tip that's in the kit. If someone like had like blood or saliva or semen on their body or bodily fluids anywhere on their body, you swab that and send it. You could send in if someone had like a condom left over in themselves or a tampon or a pad, you send that stuff. Any like debris, like leaves. It's super, super detailed and it takes so freaking long, but it's just because you want to make sure you cram in as much evidence as you can. You collect their clothes, their underwear, PSA. Oftentimes, patients will come in and they've showered, they've eaten, they've brushed their teeth. Usually like they will come in a day or two after the assault occurred, which I totally get. Like that was something incredibly traumatic and you want to cleanse yourself. But we get better evidence if you haven't showered, haven't brushed your teeth, haven't like just come as you are, which and it's a lot easier to say than it is to actually do. But it's just we like to collect all that data and not having showered, even peed or defecated or eaten, because you can get so much data or so much evidence off these people potentially. Anyway, but the kit, yes, it has to be done within 5 days for the 100B kit, I think it's called. That's like the actual sexual assault kit. And then there's the 400A, I think it's called, is the toxicology. So like if you think you were drugged, for example, it has to be done within a certain amount of time, and we get like a urine and a blood sample out of that one. But in her case, no, she was not drugged. I don't, if we don't know, this is the date that the assault occurred. Like for her, we think, it's been going on for years. Yeah. Like probably 7 years or so, potentially, because he started in 2012. So like 6 or 7 years. And, we have to know like the last date. If someone, is 6 days, it was 6 days ago, they're out of the window. But, they could still obviously file a police report. But in her case, patients have to be able to consent to the case. If they don't consent, we don't do it. Good. And for patients like her who are unable to provide verbal consent, their healthcare proxy or POA or whoever is in charge of their care has to consent for them. But if the patient, this is a fun fact, well, I guess it's not fun, but this is a fact, is that the patient has to provide assent as well. So if you have a demented patient and, the person in charge of their care is consenting to the case, but this demented patient or patient with dementia is like bearing their legs and, screaming, crying, you don't proceed with the kit because it's a very invasive kit. Yeah. And then towards the end of the kit, we do external genital swabs. And then some hospitals allow the nurses to do this who are SAFE certified, but a speculum exam. Oh, wow. So I'm trained on how to do a speculum exam, but the hospital I work at doesn't allow us to do speculum exams as nurses. So the provider will come in and do the speculum, and you can't use lube with the speculum exam. You can only use water, which makes it even more uncomfortable. So it's just even more trauma after a traumatic event. So I try to make it as comfortable as possible for these victims.
They could not have asked for a better nurse for all of the patients that you've done that for. I know how caring you are, and I'm sure that you're just not only knowledgeable but very empathetic.
Thanks, Dee.
You're welcome.
So anyway, I would imagine they didn't do a safe kit for Elle. So 2 days after the discovery, Nathan surrendered his nursing license. After he was arrested, he was fired from Hacienda Healthcare. Obviously, a gynecologist who was involved in the investigation reported that there was no doubt that Elle had experienced pain and that it was possible Elle had been pregnant in the past.
Oh my God.
There was also evidence that she had severe vaginal trauma, gaping of the perineum, and also was a victim of both vaginal and anal rape.
Please tell me he is serving like a lifelong sentence.
No. I wish, but no. And I'm laughing because it's just ridiculous that someone who's capable of this is out, or not out yet, but is potentially out very quick. So on January 7th, 2019, the CEO of Hacienda Healthcare resigned, and the Arizona state governor asked for the resignation of Hacienda Healthcare's board of directors shortly after that. In February 2019, Hacienda Healthcare shut down very briefly. A physician working there resigned, and another physician was suspended.
What?
Yeah, I don't know why. I didn't go into why they were suspended. Probably have to do with the case.
It was involved with the case?
I'm guessing, but...
Maybe the diverticulitis.
One of the patients in their care was found to have maggots on their body, which, sometimes patients who come in and they're not cared for come in and they do have maggots in their wounds. But this patient was in a healthcare facility. Like, this never should have happened.
Well, maggots only eat the rotted flesh.
That's true.
So, just throwing it out there.
That's true, Dee.
Maybe it was the Hacienda's
Oh, God.
debridement program.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, my God.
The Arizona Department of Health Services revoked their license due to negligence. But Hacienda Healthcare is still kicking. They got it back May 1st, 2019, and a new CEO is running the show now. Per Hacienda Healthcare, they have improved security. They've got their new security cameras, new security guards, and they are providing retraining to their employees on abuse and neglect, which is good. Elle's family filed a $45 million lawsuit against the state of Arizona for gross negligence and for cultivating circumstances that allowed for the lack of monitoring in long-term care facilities. Years earlier, listen to this, in 2002, Elle's parents had requested that only female nurses care for Elle after they claimed she was touched inappropriately. However, this case was never honored, despite her parents being told that it would be. So they were pissed, rightly so. $25 million was settled for Elle, and $10 million were given to her mom and her dad, each. On February 5th, 2019, Nathan pleaded not guilty. In June 2021, the parties reached a settlement of $15 million plus a settlement of $7.5 million from the state of Arizona as part of an agreement where he would serve, get ready, 5 to 10 years with lifetime probation. Nathan pled guilty to sexual assault and abuse of a vulnerable adult in September 2021. A couple months later, in December 2021, Nathan was sentenced to 10 years and received credit for time served amounting to about 3 years.
What? Mm-hmm. I'll tell you right now, they should have clipped his balls off.
Hey, you know what?
You know what? Sterilize them.
If you're going to do these nasty things, I don't think you deserve to have these reproductive organs.
Cut off the jewels.
Yeah.
I think it's especially heinous because, again, nursing, he's a dad. And I hope that $25 million that Elle was awarded, I hope that she has a private home health care aide. She's able to be at home, 24/7 care, all female staff.
Yep.
Because get the hell out of Hacienda.
Mm-hmm. I don't know where she is now. But yes, I agree. I hope so. As a result of this case, Arizona has promised to better oversee all their care facilities. And Elle's baby is being raised by Elle's family.
It's alive?
The baby's alive. Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. I don't know what the baby's status is, right, because there was some question of, how long he was under when he was being resuscitated. But he's being raised with his grandparents, and they love him. The LPN here, Nathan, was taking advantage of, it's a little sinister, but it's the perfect situation. Okay? Elle was unable to consent. Like you said, she's unable to tell anyone about what's going on. If she hadn't gotten pregnant, this sexual abuse may still be going on to this day. Imagine that. She could still be a current victim to this day.
It begs the question, is this going on elsewhere?
I bet. Oh, I freaking bet.
Be aware. Be aware. And nurses are mandated reporters. If anyone had an inkling what Nathan was doing, they should have reported it.
And another, like we pointed out, she's unable to verbalize any physical complaint. And when she was examined, she showed very obvious signs of trauma. And so she must have been in a lot of pain from these assaults.
I'm sure. And there are signs that she was sexually active, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Physical signs that they could have seen.
Yeah, I don't know how they couldn't have, because, and the gynecologist reported there's evidence of severe trauma. So physically, we do an internal exam and an external exam, and people can have lacerations, they can have bruising, discoloration. So maybe she had internal injury, but I'm not sure how it could have been missed. But especially like with changing her or providing peri-care, exactly.
All right, Ris, anything you want to add, babe?
No, I think that's it. I think we covered everything I wanted to cover with this case.
Great case. I'm glad that Elle was able to get out of this situation.
Yeah.
And, it's tragic how the baby's birth came about, but, I'm glad that he is with her family and being raised.
Me too. I'm glad that the family's taking care of him.
Even in an awful situation, there could be some good, but he's going to also carry a lot of trauma from being the child of a violent crime.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think it's just a very disgusting situation where people can take advantage of vulnerable people like this.
And you know what? She's Native American too, you said, right? Native American women are at the highest risk of being the victims of domestic violence and going missing. There's some statistics. More than 4 in 5 American Indian and Alaska Native women, 84.3%, have experienced violence in their lifetimes. Native American women are murdered at 10 times the national rate. 1 out of 3 Native American women will be raped in her lifetime, and 3 out of 5 will be physically assaulted.
That's horrible.
It's horrible, 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 and it just, it's something that's not talked about very much either.
Yeah.
But, it's something that I think is also a factor in this case.
I agree. Thank you for sharing that.
Welcome. All right, Ris, that was an excellent case. I especially could appreciate how in-depth he went with what the sexual assault nursing kit entails, because I had no idea.
Well, I feel like a lot of people don't, unless you've gone through it, you don't really understand all the steps involved and how traumatic that the actual kit can be. And think about it this way too, you're sharing your story over and over. You have to give it to me, you have to give it to the primary nurse. Sometimes if I'm not the primary nurse, you have to give it to the provider, you have to give it to the police if you choose to report. It's just like, oh my god, crazy. And yes, you can have a kit done and not report it to the police, just a PSA as well. We'll save it. I don't know how other states do it, but in my state, we save it for up to 5 years. You could change your mind on reporting, and if you choose to report, they'll open the kit and go through it.
I think that's wonderful.
We send it to a lab. We send the kit to a lab, and it sits there, and after a 5-year mark, it's destroyed.
I think it's really awesome that they give the autonomy back to the victim to say, do you want to press charges? Do you want to have this investigated? Mm-hmm. Because it really, you know, that's really their only control in that situation.
Exactly. And, you know, I feel like doing the kit is very centered around what the patient needs and what the patient wants, because I tell every patient I do one with that they can stop at any time. You could decline any step. It's basically in your hands. Whatever you want to do, we'll do. What you don't want to do, we won't do. We could take breaks. We could stop. Just let me know. So anyway, that's my 2 cents about the kit.
And most of the victims do the whole kit.
It depends. Sometimes some of the steps aren't applicable. Like if someone, you know, we do like anal swabs, for example, sometimes people will know, like I was not raped anally, so they decline that step. Some patients are like, I'm not just going to do the entire thing because I don't know. So it depends. Anyway, thank you for listening, guys. I hope that this was informative, as well as, you know, just our telling of this tragic case. But anyway, do you have anything to add?
All right. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. Ris, great job.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. We'll see you kitty cats next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Happy Mother's Day to Mom.
Happy Mom Day. Happy Mother's Day to Mom and all you nursing moms and other moms out there.
Aww.
Bye.
Bye.